In 1997, a film known as Men in Black was released. The film tells the story of a police officer who is recruited to join a top-secret organization in pursuit of an unwitting alien in disguise. Although the film is based on a comic book series, The Men in Black actually predates the film's popularity by half a century. In those years, that is, in the 1950s, when the Men in Black started to be told among people, many people said that men in black suits came to their doorsteps after they saw unidentified objects or strange events they experienced, and that they were seriously threatened not to tell anyone about what they saw. So while some people claimed that the Men in Black were government agents, other people thought that they were actually aliens in disguise. One question comes to mind: which of these is real? Could it be that the Men in Black really existed and that they covered up some events so that people would not understand them? In the 1960s, the US Air Force commissioned a group of physicists to investigate the possibility that flying objects seen around the world might be extraterrestrial, and funded them to investigate the subject in depth. These physicist researchers published a report in 1968 which officially concluded that further investigation of UFOs was not necessary. However, it was also pointed out in this report that the public did not trust the government on the subject of UFOs. In fact, according to polls, the public believed that the government was keeping aliens secret. The reason why people did not trust the US government in those years had to do with some events in the 1940s. In 1947, Kenneth Arnold, a famous businessman and civilian pilot, started flying his small aeroplane over Mount Rainier in Washington. During the flight, while everything was going normally, Arnold's eyes were caught by flying objects traveling at high speed in the sky. Shaped like a half moon and resembling a disc, these objects were moving at high speed directly in front of Arnold. Arnold, an experienced enough pilot, reported what he saw to the control tower and landed at Yakima Airport. However, when he landed, he found dozens of journalists in front of him, and so this incident became the talk of the world. It had a great impact among people. This strange incident experienced by Kenneth Arnold is known as one of the first UFO incidents in world history. Even after this incident, dozens of incidents of strange flying objects were reported from different parts of the world, especially from America. Since each reported incident brought with it a great mystery, people began to clearly believe that aliens had come to Earth and that governments were hiding this from people. The strangest and most popular of these events is the Roswell incident in 1947. Allegedly, a spacecraft crashed near the town of Roswell in July 1947, and the US covered up this incident by capturing an alien alive. After this incident, people began to believe that the US was hiding some things and covering it up in a strange way. When we came to the 1950s, people who saw UFOs or had close encounters with aliens almost every day began to appear. These people said that they were threatened by mysterious people known as the Men in Black, who came to their door shortly after they told about these encounters. These strange and mysterious men, usually wearing a black suit and dark hat, traveled in classic American-style black cars. For example, if we go back to the year 1976, we come across a strange and horrifying event that Herbert Hopkins experienced. Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a well-known and highly respected doctor in his region, was alone in his home on the night of November 11th, investigating a UFO incident that had occurred a few months earlier. However, at this very moment, his home phone suddenly started ringing. Dr. Herbert Hopkins answered the phone. The caller introduced himself as a representative of the New Jersey UFO organization and asked if Hopkins could visit him. Hopkins accepted the offer, and before he hung up the phone, he heard the man say, "I will be there shortly." Thinking that the man would be home in a few hours, he went to the front door to switch on the porch light. However, when he reached the front door, he saw that the man had already arrived home and was walking up the stairs in front of the house. This made Hopkins very angry. Even if he had called from the next door neighbor, he could not have come to the front door so quickly. This raised questions in his mind. Moreover, mobile phones had not yet been invented at that time. So how did this man get home so fast? While Hopkins was searching for answers to these questions in his mind, the man entered the front door opened by Hopkins and sat on the seat inside. Wearing a black suit, a pair of grey gloves on his hands and a black hat on his head, this man had a perfect and extraordinary appearance. However, this perfection took a strange turn when the man took off his hat. Because when he took off his hat, Hopkins saw that the man's head was very smooth, and there was not a single hair on his head, eyebrows or eyelashes. The man's nose and ears were much smaller and lower than they should have been. Also, even in the dim light of the hall, it could be seen that the man's skin was almost white and pale. The only shade of colour was the strange dark red colour of his lips. Dr. Hopkins witnessed him speaking in a dull voice, without intonation, and the man sitting motionless during the entire conversation. At this point, the man wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, causing a red stain to appear on his cheeks. At this point, Hopkins realized that the man did not actually have lips, that he was wearing red lipstick, and that the man's mouth was actually a flat slit. Hopkins, frightened and shocked beyond measure by what he had seen, came to his senses when the man called out to him. The man asked him to take out a coin from his pocket and then to hold it in his hand. Hopkins could not understand how this strange man knew he had a coin in his pocket. However, throughout the conversation, he felt that the man was somehow reading his mind and feeling his emotions. So, not knowing what to do, he took the copper coin out of his pocket and began to hold it steady in the palm of his hand. At this point, the man told Hopkins to watch the coin carefully and to keep an eye on it. Meanwhile, the coin gradually changed colour from copper to silver in a strange way, and then disappeared. After this happened, the man told Hopkins that he must destroy all the information he had gathered about the UFO incident he was investigating, or he himself would disappear in the same way as the coin. Hopkins realized that this was a warning threat. As the man said these words, Hopkins noticed that he began to speak more slowly, and some of his words were trembling. While this was going on, the strange man suddenly told him that he was low on energy and had to leave immediately. Then he left the house, descended the stairs as if he was crippled, and disappeared from sight. Hopkins could not recover for a while after this incident. He was very shaken and sat on the floor in an odour. When his family came home that evening, they found him sitting in the living room, staring into space with all the lights on. 20 years before this incident, in 1952, another strange event had taken place. In those years, Albert Bender founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau organization to investigate and report on strange UFO sightings all over the world. This organization was initially very successful, publishing weekly reports and disseminating them to people all over the world. However, in 1953, Albert Bender suddenly and mysteriously stopped all activities of the organization he had founded and published a very ominous message in the last issue of his newsletter. This message advised those investigating the flying saucer business to be very careful. At the time, Bender's colleagues thought he was behaving very strangely, as if someone or something was scaring him into giving up his job. Rumour has it that for weeks after Albert Bender closed the office, he could not eat or sleep properly due to stress and fear. During this time, he also suffered from terrible headaches. Whenever he was asked about his sudden decision, he could give no answer and tried to drop the subject. However, almost 10 years later, in 1962, he made a strange statement. He said that one day he was visited by 3 men dressed in black and that they warned him not to continue working on UFOs. In short, many such strange and mysterious events took place in those years, and at some point, the men in black became an urban legend among the public. So, how true are all these stories? Could the men in black really have covered up such events? Or are these people human? Please discuss these questions in the comments section. If you want to watch such videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.